Hi Logan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Parker. How are you doing on this fine afternoon?
I'm doing great. But I have a question for you. What was Marx's vision for humankind and why has this vision failed?
All right, so Marx, while he was studying the history of society, he noticed that one class was always oppressing another, but the oppressed class always overthrew the dominant class. So because of this, he wanted to get rid of classes as a whole, and he thought this would happen by the proletarian, the working class, overthrowing the bourgeoisie. He thought that when the proletariat controlled the economic production, all classes would disappear, and there would be no need for a government. This vision failed because Marx did not account for the reforms and laws that would then protect workers' rights, leading them to not want to overthrow the bourgeoisie. So, in the end, his idea basically failed. And I have a question for you.
Really?
What could modern society learn from the ideas of Adam Smith and Thomas Malthus?
Okay, so, just a refresher. Adam Smith believed in self-interest, which is basically people work for their own good. But he also believed in competition, because he said it would force the making of better products. And I mean, this example can be seen in modern society and in the recent past. For example, in the space race between the US and the Soviet Union, the competition pushed them to work harder and faster to achieve what needed to be achieved. Also, his what he said about supply and demand can be used to basically set reasonable prices, uh, help producers set reasonable prices for consumers using the supply and demand theory. Moving on to Thomas Malthus, he basically believes a spiking population would affect the food supply. He believed that the population was exponential, but resources were linear. So, and because the population was exponential, but resources were linear, he believed population would eventually exceed resources. So, um, basically, the point where the population met resources, there would be a crisis point. So basically, uh, to like satisfy his ideas, society would have fewer people to prolong the amount of time to reach the crisis point, but Corona is already doing that for us. Logan, what could modern society learn from the ideas of Karl Marx?
Well, since since Karl Marx believed that society should be classless, we could learn to share our money more often because America's mostly capitalism. So there are people who are extremely rich and people who are extremely poor. And if we could just share this money around, society would be a lot better as a whole. So Donald Trump is even trying to implement this idea. It's called socialism. So he's trying to help people out who are losing their jobs due to the coronavirus by giving them money, and this would really help out society as a whole.
And that's really interesting because Donald Trump's a Republican.
Yeah, and Republicans usually don't like socialism.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think that's the end of the questions today. Thank you for having this conversation with me.
And thank you guys for listening.
Peace.